Greetings, salutations, and welcome to SportsLook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and we metaphorically went to a masseuse because we've worked out all of the kinks from last week, and we promise you a great episode. We're going to have my good friend John Hauser. He's going to talk about some changes that have taken place at Eastern. We're going to have Josef Garcia. He is the head coach of Esports at Eastern. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Congratulations to Greyhound Volleyball. They got their first W of the season last weekend up in South Dakota. They will be in action at home this weekend. We also had Greyhound Soccer. The men were playing against Northeastern Oklahoma State. They played on real turf, and they emerged with a 1-1 tie. We also had cross country. They were competing at Midwestern State. Both teams finished 7th. And the Greyhound football team playing against nationally ranked Angelo State came so close, but they did wind up losing by 6 points. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring in John Hauser right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a privilege to bring to the set of SportsLook my good friend John Hauser, the LeBron James of noontime basketball at Eastern New Mexico University. And John, welcome to SportsLook.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Well, the first question I always ask a first-time guest, where are you from originally, and what was the process that got you here?
Originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Hated the winters up there, so when the opportunity came to come to New Mexico in 2006, I moved out here and worked at New Mexico State in their athletic department for 4 years. Then actually got married to an Eastern alum in 2011 and moved to Abilene, Texas to work over there at ACU Athletics for 4 years. And every time we'd drive across the border, my wife would go, "Oh, my heart's back." And so at that point I knew, hey, we got to come back to New Mexico. So in 2015, I had the opportunity to come back and start my career here at Eastern as Director of Communication Services, and my role has greatly expanded since then over the last 9+ years here at Eastern.
And what is your official title right now?
I am the Associate Vice President of Public Relations and Advancement.
And what did you get your degrees in?
My degrees are from Bowling Green State University, a bachelor's degree in sport management and minor in marketing, and then got a master's at Kent State University in Ohio with an emphasis in sport management.
So did you always envision yourself doing something relating to sports?
Yeah, I was, the first 10 years of my career were all athletics, and, working 60-hour weeks was something that I was pretty used to. But then when you get married and you have a family, then priorities start to shift, and so I said, hey, let me give the academic side of college a try here, and came to Eastern, and it was like drinking out of a fire hose the first couple of years as I was learning everything. But I ended up under Dr. Patrice Caldwell, was my direct supervisor for about 6 years, and she changed my life and showed me how to become a manager, and she's the reason I'm still at Eastern to this day. Because she was such as a lot of people know, a great person and a great manager, and really got me to where I am today.
Well, John, we have you on for a number of different reasons. We're going to, if we backtrack, we're going to talk about a rally on Main that we're going to be doing, and then we're going to be talking about homecoming. But first and foremost, there have been some changes regarding what the actual playing areas are known as, and they have to do with a very generous benefactor, a man by the name of Steve Loy.
Yeah, Steve Loy has an amazing story, and we're actually working with your team here at KENW to put together a documentary on him that'll come out later this year. But Steve, from Albuquerque, grew up there, ended up coming to ENMU in 1970 under Coach Jack Scott, was a starting linebacker for 4 years here. After he graduated from Eastern, he started a professional career in golf, collegiate golf. Went to Scottsdale Community College, coached there, was very successful. Went over to Arkansas, ended up coaching a very famous golfer in John Daly. Left Arkansas in the late 80s, went over to Arizona State and recruited a guy named Phil Mickelson there.
Heard of him.
Yeah, and helped Phil win some national championships and in the collegiate level. And when Phil graduated, he goes, "Coach, I want you to be my agent." So Steve changed career paths, and he is currently the #1 golf agent in the world, representing, of course, Phil Mickelson still. John Rahm, who just went over to Live Golf. He's represented Davis Love, the third, and many other famous golfers out there. And Steve got to the point, we are building our advancement shop here at Eastern New Mexico University under the direction of Warren Lloyd, who's the vice president for advancement. And when he got here, he went in and started talking to Steve, and it was perfect timing. And Steve came to the plate and said, "I want to make a donation to Eastern, and what can we work on, what we can partner on." And that's where, because he was a football captain here back in '73, the football stadium meant a lot to him, and he was big into athletics. His wife's a graduate of here as well. And so when we were like, "Okay, what are you interested in?" And he said, "I really would like to rename the football stadium and the basketball arena after my family foundation." So it's now the Steve Lloyd Family Foundation Arena and the Steve Lloyd Family Foundation Stadium.
People don't just have to take our word for that, John. We've got footage, and so we're going to cue up the highlight reel, and please walk us through it.
Sure, no problem. And tell you guys, when this happened, we were like, "Oh, hey, we got to change out all the signage." So, and we're not just talking like a sideline sign or something like this. This was a massive lift. And we ended up going through the process, got Able Sign Company out of Las Cruces to help us. That's the monument sign that we ended up redoing. I got to do a shout out to our graphic design staff here at ENMU. They did all the graphic work on this real quickly for us. The basketball arena, we had to contract with Signman Signs here locally to come in and repaint and pull that down off of there. The old Greyhound Arena sign. And then Able Signs came in and hung the new signage there for the Steve Lloyd Family Foundation Arena and had produced all that. So that was all put together on the basketball arena. Then this was the big lift, was replacing the signage on the back of the bleachers there. That head there is actually the old head that was hanging there since 2016. Able Sign Company came out, repainted it for us, and actually hung a 3D ear, basically, is what you're seeing there. So it's a 3D element, and then had to custom order all those letters and get them in within a month, and got that all done. That's the back of the scoreboard there that they redid for us. Able Signs Company did with the help of our graphic design staff. That is a mesh banner that they put up there as well. So it was quite a bit of, we had like 6 major signs that we had to change, and we were there on September 6th, putting the finishing touches on everything. And if you go out there now, there's wonderful signage there. I would be remiss that if I didn't mention Legacy Monument and the great work they did. We have 3 monuments now there at the stadium. One to Steve Lloyd, of course, one to Jack Scott, his coach, and one to Don Carthel, who played with Steve and was a legendary coach here in the 80s for Eastern New Mexico University. And then over at the basketball arena, we also have a monument for Steve there. And then the cool thing that we're getting a lot of comments on is there are now 2 50-foot lighted flagpoles, one at Greyhound Arena and one at Steve Lloyd Family Foundation Arena and Steve Lloyd Family Foundation Stadium now. And you can see those with the giant American flag on it. And we're working on getting Greyhound flags that'll be a little smaller, but still you'll be able to see them from the highway, and it really will add a nice touch to both the arena and the stadium.
And I was smiling as you were telling me the story about all of the signs, because Steve Lloyd and I both started college in the fall of 1970. There was a song back then that said, "Sign, sign, everywhere a sign." Well, clearly the case here. And congratulations to you and everybody involved. They just absolutely look great.
Well, aren't they redoing Northwestern Stadium and naming it after you now?
They are redoing Northwestern Stadium, the naming. I think it's something different. But
Okay.
John, another reason we brought you in is because it's still a couple of weeks away, but it's early enough to start thinking about it. We've got homecoming and what's going to be going on homecoming weekend.
This is our 90th anniversary homecoming, so we wanted to do a lot of special events that recognize a lot of different things from a lot of different areas over the university. And so basically, from basically September 30th through October 5th, we have a myriad of events. Monday night, we start in with Songfest, which is our annual Songfest event with all the students there at the Cub from 6 to 9. On Tuesday, we're going more a science feel. We have a guest lecture from a chemist from Cal Berkeley coming in at 10 a.m. And then at 2 o'clock, we're doing the Roosevelt Science Center grand opening. So that'll be a big event if you're interested in science, or if you just want to come check out what used to be a boys' dorm on our campus that underwent a $22.5 million renovation over the last 4 years. It's incredible in there if you've gotten to walk through there yet or not. Wednesday, we have our annual Powder Puff game out there at the stadium from 6:30 to 9. A lot of fun. We have 4 teams out there playing. Get a lot of students out there. That's a fun event. Thursday, we're tapping into Jack Williamson and his history here. We're doing a reading of Nonstop Through Portales by Connie Willis. She'll be here, who's a nationally known science fiction writer. That's at 3 o'clock at the library there. Then we're having our first ever ring ceremony at 6 o'clock. So if you haven't ordered your Greyhound ring yet, you can't participate this year, but we'll have openings next year. We want you to come out, check that out, and see how that ceremony is going to go. Friday's where it gets a lot of fun. We have our annual President's Barbecue for alumni and friends. That's at the President's Shop, which is his new indoor shop behind his house. That's 4:30 to 6:30. Then at 6:30, we have the bonfire and pep rally, where we'll have a giant bonfire, and the king and queen will be named. And as soon as we name the king and queen and you wrap up the pep rally, we're going to launch a drone show. And the drone show will be about a 15, 20-minute show, custom animations that are custom to ENMU. We'll have some stuff for the Air Force, too. Even showed them, I think we're going to see a mammoth sighting as well there at that night. That's free for everybody to come out. That's going to be behind Steve Loy Family Foundation Arena there, is a viewing point for that. And then at 8 o'clock, we have a free comedy show with Stephen Michael Casada, who's a fellow Greyhound, out at Enchantment Vineyards as part of our Mix and Mingle on Friday. Saturday, annual homecoming parade, of course, at 11 o'clock coming down Highway 70. We want everybody out there for that. And then we have the tailgate in the game on Saturday night.
Well, John, real quickly, you are, of course, a family man, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to send a shout out to your wife and your 2 charming daughters.
Yeah, I mean, you asked me earlier why I'm here. Well, it's because the 99 Hatch Chili Queen lives in Portales. So, there's my shout out to my claim to fame. So, and then I have an 11-year-old Bella and a 5-year-old Mary Elena, who are both very active in the community and enjoying their time here in Portales and the schools here.
Well, John, congratulations on all of your success so far in getting the brand of Eastern out to a wider audience and intersecting with more people, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Doc.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment, so we'll clear the set, and we're going to bring in our esports head coach, Josef Garcia, right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a privilege to bring back to this set of SportsLook the head coach of esports at Eastern New Mexico University, Josef Garcia. And Josef, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Josef, you are in your 3rd year as the head coach of esports at Eastern. We've had you on every year, but in case people are watching this show for the very first time, where are you from originally, and what was the process that got you to the head coaching position?
So I'm from here, Portales, Mexico. I went to school here, high school, graduated Eastern, got my bachelor's here. And pretty much I started off coaching at the high school. And well, I was also part of the esports club, while I was undergrad. And then whenever there's opening here, I applied, and kind of through my experience coaching and whatnot, it led me here.
Well, Joseph, for people that really have never watched an episode that you've been on, please explain to the viewers what esports actually is.
So esports is basically just competitive video games. So there's more like single player video games that you play kind of casually, and there's competitive versus games that you play as a team or individual for results tournaments and whatnot, right?
So what was your association with video games growing up? What were your favorite games?
So I started off playing just like games like Pokemon, like on my Game Boy, and slowly I kind of moved. As I was growing older, I'd play a bunch of Nintendo games. Those were like my original ones, but I started getting into games like Call of Duty or like Smash Bros. Like was my main game that I competed in, right? So it kind of just went from just games I played when I was little to but new different types of games to games I kind of play competitively now.
And I was really smiling when you talked about Pokemon because I went to the 5th birthday of a young resident of Portales, a young man by the name of Clark Self, and he had a Pokemon-themed birthday party. So I thought it was just a passing fancy when it came out in 1996, but no, that had staying power.
Yeah, no, definitely.
What is the fascination? I mean, and this is really going far afield from esports, but what's the fascination of Pokemon?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's just whenever you play it, you just have a little adventure, and you just play through a little story. But it's also the appeal of it is catching the Pokemon that you catch, and then maybe they're small when you get them, but then as you play through the game, they like grow and like they're stronger, and like the forms they have are cool or something like that.
There you go. Well, talk a little bit about your association with esports at Portales High School. How did esports become a thing at Portales High?
So I think I wasn't really there whenever they started up. I'm not sure what the conversations looked like, but what I do know is that they saw that there was an interest in it. There was other schools or other states that were having esports programs like as part of their athletic association, and I imagine Play Versus, which is the league they play under, kind of probably either they approached them or we approached them or they approached us, and they decided that was something they wanted, and since then it's grown like exponentially. So really cool.
And in terms of Portales High School, did you play against other teams for like a championship, or was it just like individual competition?
Yeah. So they're all teams. They're all team based. Well, even the individual games where you play one-on-one are still team based. And basically how it works is you compete against other schools in like kind of like a season, and then the top seeds are like whatever of each group, play in a playoff for a state championship. And Portales High, actually, we've won multiple state titles ourselves and have placed. So
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you carried a tradition of success with you to Eastern, and were you aware that Eastern had an esports club when you got here?
Yes, I was actually like one of the founding members of it. I was here whenever it started, so yeah.
And what was the process? Was it you and other people going to the university and saying, let's get this to be sanctioned, or was it somebody from the university that said, we want to up you from being a club to being a varsity sport?
I think it was someone from the university wanting it to be a part of like the university, because whenever we were there, it was just a club, and then kind of COVID kind of happened, and it kind of went dead for a while, and then I think someone at Eastern wanted to bring it back, and they brought it back in the form of being under athletics.
So what is your working relationship with the new athletic director, Kevin Fite? Is he just kind of getting his feet wet and saying, we'll talk down the line, or have you been in conversation with them already?
So I've talked with him. We've had some meetings, and I've told him kind of the ideas that, well, one, he hasn't worked with esports before, so I explained kind of to him what it is, and he really liked the idea of it and thought it was really cool that we do this here. So, but yeah, for now, like, he's kind of just getting stuff together, but we definitely have some stuff we want to do.
So what are your plans? What would you, in this third year as the head coach, what would you like to do differently?
So, well, this year I've definitely have been recruiting a lot more students for the teams. Last year we had about 3 or 4 titles we had, but this year I think it looks like we're gonna have teams for about, I would say 6, 7, maybe even 8 titles. So that's what I was focusing on, at least since this semester started. That's what I've been focusing on now. As far as like whenever this semester comes, or the next semester comes and we're competing, definitely getting the matches out there, like that we stream them. We stream them on our YouTube. We streamed last year. It was kind of just like somewhat experimental because it was the first time doing it. But this year I really want to push it out there.
I will be the first to admit that I tried to watch, and it was a little bit confusing to me last year. So hopefully this year it'll be more, oh, I see what they're doing. So talk a little bit about the squad that you've recruited for this year. You had told me in years past that there were kind of a surprising number of music students that were part of your team. Has it expanded outward, or is music kind of your core group?
I definitely do still feel like there's a lot of music majors. I mean, as far as the new students, I don't really know what they majored in yet. I mean, in the coming weeks, I'm sure I'll find out very quickly. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, as like I said, there's for some reason, a lot of music majors, but they could be really anyone, really. You know, what's called video games, like it appeals to it appeals to anybody. You know, so even people that are they're athletic. I've had some people that are on the athletic teams here kind of wondering if they could join or something like that. So,
how many kids did you lose to graduation last year?
So I think I had about 15, 17 students. I think I had about 4 graduate. I think or 4 or 5 graduate.
So you got a good nucleus coming back, and then a lot of new people.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be, you talked about the fact you'd like to add titles. What year in and year out do you think are going to be titles that you're always going to field the team with?
I think Smash Bros is definitely the biggest one. Even at the high schools, it's the biggest esport there. So there's so many students that will graduate and then come to the university and they say that they played for their school. So that's a big one. Usually Call of Duty is very popular. I haven't had any issues, even whenever we were in the club. Those are the 2 we always had, Smash Bros, Call of Duty. And I would say Overwatch is probably one that I think will almost always be filled usually. So.
We'll talk a little bit about how your managerial style has evolved over the period of time. I talked to you when you were first hired about how do you actually coach, and you said that you can watch, you can observe, you can offer suggestions about strategy. So how has your approach to coaching changed over the past couple of years?
I think a lot of what I've learned is that just mainly looking at evaluating where the players are in terms of their skill level. And before, it was kind of a process of letting them kind of figure out what they need to do. But now I've kind of realized it's not exactly a science, but it's still kind of an art. But I've recognized there are things that at certain levels they really should be focusing on. Like if they're beginners, you can try to explain the intricacies of the game, but really what they need to be working on is just their mechanics and their technical skills of the game. And the other stuff can come later. And then if they're more middle level, then it's like, okay, then they need to think about the concepts of the game and more like that, because they probably already have their technical skills down. And whenever I have players that are they know what they're doing, and they are really good. But if there's anything holding them back, it's usually mental. Is usually what it is. It is what I realized. So for those players, it's then like kind of getting them prepared for competition, bringing out the best in themselves.
Well, Joseph, we got about a minute left. Are you doing any fundraisers? And if so, give you a chance to get some publicity here.
So I do want to do some fundraiser tournaments. I know we have a big one we're planning in the spring, and I can't go into too much detail on that yet because I don't really know exactly what we're all going to do, but I want to do something bigger and better than it was last year. I guess it was this year, in the spring this year. But for now in the fall, I definitely just want to do something here on the campus for students to come and do in the community. And, maybe we'll do like tournaments, you enter, we have whatever we can do to fundraise, whether raffles or like we'll sell shirts or something.
Well, a question I asked you a couple of years ago, and real quickly, I'd ask you if your competitors can earn a varsity letter, and if so, what are the criteria? And has there been any decision, or is that still to be decided?
Yeah, I still don't know. I every time I think you've asked me, and I keep forgetting. It's like in the back of my mind. So hopefully I can get an answer.
Well, we got you a logo now, so the very least that we can do is help move the process towards getting a letter. Well, Josef, congratulations on the success you've had so far, and best of luck this year.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview process of SportsLook, so we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. How would you like your life judged? Would you like your life to be judged in its totality? Do you think you're going to have a better first half of your life? Do you think you're going to have a better second half of your life? I bring that up because it does relate to the world of sports in the persona of a guy named Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is an NFL quarterback. He currently plays for the Atlanta Falcons. And if you look at his record on Monday Night Football, the guy has a 4-6 record. So-so. You take a look at the first half of his life on Monday Night Football, the guy was 0-5. Statistically, he was the worst quarterback ever on Monday Night Football. You look at him the last half of his career, he's 4-1. So I think most of us would say, yeah, we get better with age. Certainly Kirk Cousins has. Well, that will finish up in overtime, and that will finish up an episode of SportsLook. I'd like to thank my guests, John Hauser and Josef Garcia. Once again, had a floor crew directed by Ms. Caitlin. So, for all of those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.